Go.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's edition of Horse's Mouth Live. And as always, I have great information for you to help you in every area of your business and your life. Again, my name is Ellen Rogin, and today we're having a conversation about expanding your network. And our guest, Alice Tang, is someone I've known for a while. I was just reflecting on how we met through someone who's not in the financial services industry at all. My friend Nicole Auerbach, who's an awesome human being. And I was out in Portland and she's like, "Oh, you have to meet Alice." I'm like, "Cool." And so that's how we met. And that was a bunch of years ago. So it really feeds into how networking can be through other people. It can be in person like that. And then lots of things have changed since post-pandemic and with LinkedIn and things. And there's all sorts of ways to expand your network. There is no one I know who's an advisor who's better at networking than Alice Tang. She's good at lots of things. She's a great advisor, but this, she was on our show before talking about her networking system, and we may get into some of that, but she's really expanded this and taken this to her next level, and it has impacted her practice as well. So let me give you a little bit about Alice's formal background before we start asking her some questions. So when it comes to building networks, lots of people believe that it's about knowing lots of people or spending lots of time networking, but Alice has proven otherwise. She's the vice president and partner at a full-service multi-generational financial planning firm in Oregon. She's a top producer in the financial industry, a sought-after speaker, and was the 2023 Women of Influence Award winner. How cool is that? So after years of being in her practice, following kind of the tried and true advice, which I think all too often advisors follow tried and true advice versus newer advice or things that feel authentic for them about how to build business, she realized that that is just not scalable and there's found her own ways because there's only so many hours in the day. So she's created systems that scales and has exponentially grown her network business and success. She's also a speaker. She advocates a lot for women advisors and women investors in general. But so, yay, welcome back, Alice. I'm so glad that you're here.
I'm happy that you have me today.
Yeah, so when we were catching up a few weeks ago, you were telling me about your women's $1 million conversations. So share with us again what that is, how you're using that, and how it's been impacting your business.
So I'll share a little story first. I am somebody who got bored pretty easily, especially in the pandemic. There is so much you can do. And then one day I was doing Google. So I thought, well, why don't I put net worth $1 million USA just for fun? So of course there's, thousands or, 10,000 links out there, but every link was telling me that about 10% of our population has a net worth over $1 million. Now, $1 million is a lot to many. And $1 million may not to some of us. However, we just are dealing with inflation. We know how expensive things are. $1 million might not last as long as while our grandmother was born. Okay, so I thought that's interesting. I thought USA, since I immigrated, is one of the wealthiest countries in the world, and yet we only have 10% of household crossing the $1 million net worth. And advisor, we know that asset minus liability net worth, right? How much do you have? So that's crazy. But the other thought was, well, maybe everybody is 997,000. It just take a market uptake, not necessary today, to get to that million. So that's something that I should concern about, but let's find out more. The more research I did, the other indicator came up. So the most wealthiest 3% person in USA, if we add their net worth together, is more than the total net worth of the bottom 50% of our population. That is true in many countries, but that's alarming for a country that I thought is the wealthiest country in the world, or at least one of the top few. So it got connecting to women and my wanting to advocate for women, right? Women need to be in charge of money, thinking about women in general, not Ellen, not Alice, is about making 80 cents of a dollar of a man earned, and colored women may earn a little less. So that means 90% or more of women need some guidance, need some hope. We need to give them hope. So I was talking to my good friend who has a marketing company, Tiffany Salzman, and she said, well, we can do a project. Well, that is as much energy I can give that. So we called the project Women's $1 Million Conversation at the time. So we named that. So how are we going to do that? We're going to interview women who has saved, earned, or made $1 million. And we use the same 12 questions so that we can have a good format of harvesting the data. And if I interview Ellen today, her approach and her way may relate to some people, but not necessarily everyone. Same here, not everyone can relate to me. Not everyone can relate to Brené Brown. Not everyone can relate to someone, right? So if we create as many role models as possible, these 90% plus women can look at it, well, she looks like me. She can do it. Perhaps I have hope that I can. So that's how.
And so is this, you record these interviews, Alice? It's
yes,
like a video recording? Okay.
I do.
And then they go out to your mailing list, or they post it. I know you have a YouTube channel. Where are these housed?
YouTube channel, but mainly I stay in LinkedIn just for convenience and professional, because many of the people that I connected to are either women business owner or professional executive women. So that's the place where I feel in my comfort. I'm just sending out there.
That's where your people are.
Yes.
Okay. So what I'm hearing, and I want to make this connection for your business, is certainly you saw a need out there. You're wanting to serve people. I have a belief that what goes around comes around. And when people are out there doing good in the world, good comes back to them. It's not just a belief. I have lots of evidence for me and the advisors that I've worked with. And has this, because this, if they're women who don't currently have $1 million, they may or may not be good clients for an advisor or for you. But so tell me a little bit about besides the being of service, the business case for spending time and energy on this project.
So I think because of this project, I have a lot of good female and male supporter. So when they like and comment in a certain way, I know LinkedIn has an algorithm to get to that network. So out of the blue, I got a little bit more followers. People are paying attention because it's interesting. Everybody is saying something different for the same question I ask. So that's one, followers, right? And then there are for-profit or nonprofit organization who saw that and say, hey, why don't we ask her to talk about things? She's interesting. She has an accent. She has a second language, but she has some good things to say. And I'm unafraid, so I got speaking opportunity. Okay, so the biggest thing that I didn't expect happened because at any time when I finished interviewing a guest, I asked, who else do you know who could be a role model? Simple question. Then maybe I can't think of anybody, but usually I have a few people I can connect you with. And at this place, I think the unexpected was I was able to meet phenomenal women, not in Oregon necessarily, but all over United States. If they're willing to give me a 15 minutes, interview talk discovery to make sure that, I'm not asking them to do something they're not comfortable or they not expect, walk through the questions, and then about another 15 to 20 minutes to record. So it's not a lot of time, but I can get to people that I cannot normally get to, because how do we do business? I don't do advertisement. It's really word of mouth in my practice. So word of mouth, how far can the word of mouth go? And people may be thinking in a vacuum, right? These are the people that I know, but not outside of that box. And how can I get people outside the box continue to know me? Now, they may not necessarily use the service. Maybe they do have very good advisor already. However, there is the other case where people are thinking about it, wanting to know a little bit more, whether they have one or not. And I'm happy to be there as service. Pay forward.
Mm-hmm. It also seems to me, Alice, that the other way that you're putting good out in the world to have good things come back is you're giving a platform to these people you're interviewing to expand their network. Right.
That's right.
And you're asking for their input and advice, and people feel good about that. And you're asking it authentically, not like in a user kind of way. And so I imagine that that's also a beautiful way for you to be generous with people in your network or people in their network. Because if you have a guest who refers you to someone else, it makes your guest look good because she's given that person another way to expand their network. So I think that's super cool.
Yeah.
I can't help but thinking, are you planning on writing a book about all these interviews, Alice?
Is in my mind, but I haven't really gone there yet. But I think it's going to be a good journey. The legacy I have probably is if people can use some of the things that I discover in 10 years, using 10 years or 2 decades, 20 years, if people can pick it up, that would be great.
Oh, I've got all sorts. We'll talk offline. I've got ideas, the interviews, the similarities, the thing. We'll have a convo about that, Alice Tang.
Mm-hmm.
Last time we spoke about your cadence, your regular way of keeping in touch with your network. Because I know some of the advisors that I come in contact with might be good at going out and meeting people. And maybe they make that first connection, but they have absolutely no plan for how they stay in touch with these people, or even they're really supportive COIs. They don't really have any kind of plan to be working with them. I would be so grateful if you could share some of the things you do to nourish those relationships.
Well, thank you for asking that question. I took pride in my small process, which is very effective. So number one, I think most important thing is to determine who are in your circle of influence. It might be 5 people, it might be 10 people. Determine that, okay? And then focus on making sure that you're taking care of them. So how do you take care of them? Well, is that always a referral? I mean, sometimes, we don't carry our referrals in our handbag. So, it takes the right opportunity, the right chance to give it, right? So that it makes the good sense for the receiver of the referral, which is the center of influence, and the client or the prospect. So that said, every Tuesday, I took 30 minutes of time to look at my center of influence list. And I think about what can I give them. So we just talk about, we don't necessarily carry the referral. However, we can always, for example, track them down in what they're doing in LinkedIn, give them some support. So giving them a like is one way of support, but I feel that is more important. If what they have posted, what they have written resonate with you, why don't you repost? Why don't you share? Why don't you comment? Because by doing that, my network will know about Ellen, that I really resonate with her current post and her message. So that's one, right? And then the pandemic is somewhat behind us, right? We can host event. Some are virtual still, and some are in person. How about inviting them to the events that you host? Not only they will be wine and dine, hopefully, but they also are softly planned among some of your clients or some other center of influence that they haven't had a chance to meet. And I can tell you how grateful and touched I am. I was hosting a small party at my home, about 10 women. So 10 women, no husband there. You know how crazy the conversation could go. So we take turn introduce ourselves over a couple of glass of wine, hors d'oeuvres and such. And then 5 years later, one of the women came back and tell me, I landed my biggest client from one of the guests in the room. And of course, because there is privacy and such, so she couldn't tell me which one. But I know I'm doing the right thing. And from then, I wonder why she's touching me every week, because she's using my system. She wanted to pay it back. She introduced me to a lot of different wonderful guests for Women's $1 Million Conversation. It's just crazy. Well, at times you cannot really think of anything to send to Ellen. If Ellen is in my circle of influence, I could just text Ellen and say, gosh, I'm thinking of you. I hope you're doing okay. I hope you're speaking in Australia for $1 Million Roundtable is okay. How's your Australian boots? And, small things that you remember, and don't feel that you are not genuine, because at that moment, even 30 seconds, you're truly thinking about her.
So I have questions. How do you define circle of influence? Like who are those people, and do they change? Are they the same people, and how many people?
So I have a list of 10 people, and they change every year. Not everybody change. And I'll tell you why I change them. Because sometimes, let's say I have a very wonderful service provider, like a CPA firm, a wonderful CPA female, and she decided to retire. So I can't really give her as much, and nor can I. So this is a business decision every year we need to make. It's not being crazy or greedy or ungrateful, none of those. But in order to make sure that you build your business, you need to look at these people in your circle, the 10 people in my case. We are able to give value and receive value. And of course, it doesn't need to be equal. But if they're not in a capacity to, or I'm not in a capacity to, it's not a good match. Because any of those, what I call not quite a good fit relationship, over time, it will stress both of us out. So that's how.
Do these people tend to be, I mean, logically, I could see they're attorneys or accountants. Are any of them clients, or what other kind of professions do they fall into? When you think about your current list?
You named the two professionals already. I mean, they don't need to be women to me. But some of the men are very kind. So business broker who buy and sell business, because we serve a lot of business owners, and then head recruiters. So those recruiters or recruiting company who's recruiting the C-level executives. When we talk about our executive compensation plan, we want people to talk about it, right? So we want to get to the company. Property and casualty agency or agents who do not do a line of work. You name it. And some of them is just a very wise young woman who's actively committed to the community. Nonprofit people. So it really depends. So every one relationship, we have a small definition, which is, unique to that relationship. What can I give and what they can give? How can we look at our year 2023 to be a successful year? So this takes a conversation, right? A conversation. How does it look like, and what help do you need from me?
So let's say that I'm in Portland and I introduce you to somebody. I think it may be a fit, but you don't know them yet. They're not going to immediately get on your top 10 list. What is your still, I'm sure you don't want to just be like, okay, forget it, they're not on my top 10. I'm sure there's a way you nurture and figure out if there's a good relationship. Can you talk about that? I don't want to call it screening process because it feels a little bit one-sided, but getting to know a potential person who could be in your circle of influence. Like how does that work for you?
Great. So if they're on my list, I'm just going to follow up on that. I will touch them. Touch is a intention from me to get to them, whether it's sending them referral or text message. So weekly, that's weekly. So we have 52 weeks. But for somebody I knew through Ellen, you introduced me. So of course, I mean, I'm grateful to have a meeting. Either it's a Zoom meeting or in-person meeting. Today, I'm going to take a 30-minute Zoom meeting. So I make sure that it's clear. It's a 30 minutes. Let's get to know each other. And then at the end of the meeting, I think I and this new friend connection have a good idea whether this is working. So at least I'll have to base on my gut. So if I don't feel that is a good match at the time, I would just honor what I said in the meeting. If I promise to send an article, I promise to connect them with somebody, I'll honor that. But I will not do more than that because that is not the best use of my energy and time. Mm-hmm. Now, if out of the blue they come back and ask for something, when I can give, I certainly help as service, right? But I'm not initiating that. So let's focus on if it's a potential right match. If it's a potential right match, of course, I honor what I promised. And then I will ask if we could meet again, either in person or virtually, quarterly, at least in the next 3 months. So it's on our calendar already. And they can think about it. I can think about it. In the meantime, I have a half page of notes about this new connection. Ellen graciously sent over. I have a habit of typing the notes because typing the notes within a couple of days, it helped me to remember that. That's why I can tell stories over stories. It's not I have photographic memory. It's I double it here. I hear it one time, type it the second time. So if there is anything, for example, I have somebody who is in the interior design for hotel business, just reach out to me. And she said, well, I have a new offering. I remember the offering. If I run into someone, it's a good connection. I don't mind. Even she might not be in my center of influence. I'll just connect. So that's how.
Cool. Yeah, that's so great that you have a system. And I really appreciate that you schedule that next meeting if it feels right at the end of the first meeting. I can think of actually a friend of mine, Yasmin, who I may have introduced you to, who is actually, he lived in Portland. He doesn't live there anymore. And the way that he really built our relationship, he would do that with me. He'd be like, okay, let's follow up. Do you want to talk again in a month or 6 weeks or whatever it was? And now I consider him a friend. And he's somebody that I met at a weekend that we were both at. It was a kind of a workshop. So I love that that's, again, part of your system that I think most advisors don't have. They just kind of have some haphazard things. Some might have a spreadsheet, but I would say you're in the top, we'll call it 3%, right? Of networkers in financial services. I think that
I love to be at the top because my height is so short, as you have met me before in person. So
I didn't remember that. You have a tall stature, Alice. So that was not something I remember about you. We've been in person together a few times, but that is not how I would describe you. So cool. And what else would you want advisors to know about either the coming up with their own project, like the Women's $1 Million Conversations, or building their networks, or things that would help them leverage what they're doing to not only expand their network, do more good, but also grow their practices?
I was asked one time by my broker-dealer, because they're interviewing people who have some good process of helping to get more followers or more audience in the social media. So this is the question. The question was, how have you decided to be a thought leader? Or when did you decide? So I fall off my chair because I've never been out there thinking that, okay, today is the day I made a decision. I want to be a thought leader. But after the fact, especially after this project, I totally am aware of the fact that by following your passion, so my passion is women. Some people, the passion is kids, right? Is elderly, right? Is attorneys group. That's fine. That's fine. What's your passion? How would you like to see the future of this group or this target group, which is your target market? How can you better them? So, women's million dollar conversation has given me the opportunity to show up the authentic me. So whatever you do, show your authentic you. I mean, we're not talking about too much information, TMI here, but I really am passionate for women. I'm really am passionate for women cross that net worth of $1 million. So what are you passionate about? And are you comfortable showing up just gradually? So do what you can given what you have. Um, I'm not fearless, but it took me many years living in LinkedIn and gradually being more and more open. When people hear your story, hear your comments, you become a thought leader. And that's how you create the attraction. And sharing or posting in our world is important with a consistency. So, I post Tuesday and Thursday. That's what I do. But some people say, well, I don't have time. I didn't know how to start. How about once a month? You may call it happy money or, Alice Day, whatever you call it. So start with small and just go to your center of influence. When I first started, I would go to them and send an email. This is my link I just posted. Would you comment? I'm fearless. And many of them do. And it helped me and it helped them.
Yeah, that's so great. And so the other thing I would make a point out here with your thought leadership, you're helping to set yourself apart from the 311,000 other advisors out there, right? Our clients don't make the distinction. Many advisors I've talked with think it's their process that makes them unique. It's so rare that ever makes anybody unique in the client's eye. They just think that everybody's kind of the same, but you taking a stand for women, for making posts that are unique versus kind of just grabbing things from your broker dealers world of posts that other people have, and making them really feel like Alice, then people will see what you're really about. It's authentic, it's consistent, and it's fabulous. So I'm so grateful, Alice, for all that you do in the world for women advisors. I love that you're speaking across the country about topics like this to both advisors and to end clients, that you're out there being of service and that your business has continued to grow so beautifully. And so I just want to say thank you for that. And thank you for sharing your information today. If the people watching or listening to this would like to be in touch with you, either for connecting, to follow what you're doing on LinkedIn, to bring you into a meeting to speak, for whatever way, maybe they have guests for you for your project, your Women's $1 Million Conversations. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you, Alice?
They can personal message me at LinkedIn. So you can find me at linkedin.com/ask Alice Tang. So just message me. I think that's the best. If you want to see more about Women's $1 Million Conversation, is in askalistang.com. So I'm sure the editor, wonderful Doug, will put it somewhere. The link.
Perfect. And I will as well. Alice, thank you. It's so great to spend time with you as always. And for all of you watching and listening, thank you for being here. My name again is Ellen Rogin. You can connect with me on LinkedIn at Ellen Rogin. You can find out more about me and the kinds of things I'm doing at ellenrogin.com. And if you go to ellenrogin.com/horse's mouth, you can download my special report, what extraordinary advisors know that others don't. I have a masterclass starting actually next Tuesday. So if you're interested in increasing your impact, influence, and income in a way that is very aligned with what Alice talks about, I actually, in my workbook that I provide to people, have referenced interviews with Alice. Then message me. We'll see. We can still get you in. We have a few days left. Yes. So my question for you to ponder today is, how are you going to support your circle of influence? And remember to be great and create great every single day.